Good evening and welcome to the City of Battle Creek, Michigan and the Battle Creek City Commission meeting for July 11, 2023. It is 7 o'clock. We're going to have a moment of silence for our invocation, so if you're able to stand, please stand. And I'll call upon Commissioner Patrick O'Donnell to lead us in the pledge. Please stand for a moment of silence. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next item on our agenda is roll call. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Commissioner Ballard.
Present.
Commissioner Lance.
Here.
Commissioner Morris.
Present.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Here.
Mayor Banky.
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Present.
Commissioner Simmons.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
And Vice Mayor Sophia. Here. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all the commissioners for attending the meeting tonight. Next item on our agenda is Chair noting any added or deleted resolutions.
There were none.
Next item on our agenda is petitions, communications, and reports.
There were none.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is public comment regarding consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda. If you'd like to make public comment regarding the consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you to come forward to the podium. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. Please state your name and address before beginning your comment and indicate which resolution you are speaking to. Now, another thing is that we have pews in front or chairs in front. You guys don't have to all sit in the back of the room.
Like church.
You don't like being on the camera, did you say? I see. Okay. That's fair. All right. Who wants to start out? Any public comment? Kathy? Kathy would like to start out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City staff. Just in case anyone wasn't sure, I would like to urge each one of you to support Resolution 191, asking or authorizing the city manager to send a letter for the authorization of a county-wide transportation authority. I want to make sure I said that all correct. I really think this is a great idea. I really think it's about time that our entire county work together in transportation. If we are serious about that DEI stuff, gang, this is where the rubber hits the road in some cases, because the most marginalized in our community and the least likely to be able to support this kind of stuff are the people that most need transportation inter-county-wide. So please support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. John, did you have your hand up, or David? Go ahead, David.
I'm in full support of the Battle Creek Transit, and what happens tonight is very important. With people who ride the buses and things like that, we're more of them down here tonight, but that's not. But I had some questions, so I got one answered tonight. It's quite similar to what would happen to 4 at Burren Brook. And guy talked to somebody here tonight, he kind of corrected it. And I'm for it. It's a good thing, but I gotta admit, I don't know that all the writing out and the wording between the lines, I don't have that figured out. So I hope that to be the hope for the best of right will happen. And a lot of things can be done for the transit. That's a very important necessity is Battle Creek. And it's just what we do here I support the values and the necessities of Battle Creek. I do support. So I support here tonight, quite hear what the transit's going to do, and I'd like to hear a lot more about it. I got a lot, like I said, I had a meeting here earlier, and I said at the meeting, you guys are learning a lot. I got some more and more. I come here and I hear it. I think I got to learn a lot more. So that's what I got to say for right now.
Thank you, David. Is there any other public comments? Chuck, and then we'll go back to Mary. Did I see your hand up, Mary? Thank you.
Asher, 961 Glencroft Lane. I sat in the back because if I don't, everybody can see my bald spot. So, I'm here to urge you to support 191. I've done that in the past. We need to take that first step. We're surrounded by counties that have countywide transportation. And to illustrate the need and how a countywide authority and eventually options for transportation will help us. Recently, and before we talked about this, a month and a half ago, the Marshall Dialysis Clinic closed. So if you know anything about dialysis, it depends heavily on public transportation. It's very hard to get people to dialysis 3 times a week and still maintain maybe a job that you're holding if you're a family member. So it created this issue of how do we get people who normally go to Marshall for dialysis to either Albion or Battle Creek, 11 miles east or nearly 20 miles west. There's a gentleman in Albion named Tom Hunsdorfer, and you know Tom Tarkowitz from Marshall, and then myself in Battle Creek, plus a myriad of other people who work in senior services either as professionals or volunteers, have been working together to try to solve this problem. And so far we've been able to connect people to get to an essential life-saving service. But if we had a countywide option, other than Community Action, which does a lot of dialysis transportation for seniors and people with disability, but they're at capacity. We have BC Go, they have 8,000 unmet requests for rides this year because the demand for their services is so much greater than they can provide. If we had a viable countywide transportation service, it would make it much easier for us to connect people to this life-saving service. So please, please, let's take the first step. Let's vote yes on 191 and request that the county forms an authority. Plus, in the long run, it's democracy. We'll see if the county supports this or not when it goes up for millage. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you for everything you do with senior services. Mary, is there anyone else that would like to speak? John Kennefic will be after Mary.
Mary Bourgeois, 231 Springview Drive, and I speak as an RN. I support the establishment of a transportation authority within Calhoun County because preventative health care in the long run is much less expensive to our wider society than is treating chronic issues. And I'm also a 13-year Army veteran, and I shan't discuss the logistics of the benefits of a transportation authority because that would exceed my 3-minute limit. Thank you.
Well, could you tell us more about your compost pile? I learned about Mary's compost pile at a meeting, and that was interesting. John?
John Kennefic, 234 South Avenue. I also am going to speak on Resolution 191, but I'm not going to speak in favor or against it because there's not enough information for me to make that determination. There's a lot of information that is not being discussed, is not out in the open for people to make an intelligent, informed decision. Other than myself, I think I'm pretty informed, but I can't add on this. At the commission meetings in the past, it was brought up by Commissioner Smith that who was paying the bills and how much it would cost. I've always noticed that there's always a case of taking a government program of the greatest value and the most thing that's the wonderful thing that should happen, and somehow it morphs into something that doesn't do what it was supposed to do in the first place. We have Social Security. It's a great concept. As of July 6th, it's $192 trillion in debt, and every tax-paying citizen owes $1,500,000 back to the federal government just for that. We have a lot of other important things to go on here. Again, no costs involved here. Who is paying this? A lot of people that are in favor of this, you're free to pay for it yourself, but when you start imposing it on the rest of the citizens, that might be an extra tax burden that they cannot afford. It's getting tighter and tighter, and the taxes are getting harder and harder. I'm not telling you not to vote for this. I'm just telling you right now that before you make a decision and pass it on, is there going to be future cost increases, and how much will they be? Because the citizens are going to bear that cost, and sometimes you're being overtaxed. And one final thing in regards to what happened at the last commission meeting in regards to this is that they closed off the tax increment finance authority of the Lakeview Square Mall area. And Mr. Commissioner Smith said, well, where's that money going to go? Can we put it towards the essential services in essence? And there was dead silence amongst the rest of the commissioners. Well, I know, we're going to spend that. We're going to spend it wherever you darn well please. Maybe it's going to go here, maybe it's not. Maybe this transportation system is a good thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it'll morph into something that isn't what you intended it to do. And just as an observational purpose, every time, safely-wise, I pass a bus, Battle Creek Transit bus, I tend to look inside the windows and see how full it is. Usually I only see 5 or 6 people. A full bus for only 5 or 6 people? Wow. Is that an effective, cost-effective situation that transports people from point A to point B? Doesn't sound like it to me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other public comments at this time? Yes. Jerry Steiner.
Timing is everything, I believe. Listen here. Some of you know who I am. My name is Jerry Steiner, 115 South 26th Street. And everything John Conovic said has relevance. But I'm the kind of guy that deals in the whole picture. Let me tell y'all something. We had what? Roe versus Wade, affirmative action. I got my problems with affirmative action. But as far as women is concerned and having a say on what happens to their body, y'all know how I feel about that. But let me take you back a little ways to how all this started, because there's been a whole lot of hypocrisy going on. If you remember history, you remember when Kennedy got killed and his successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, took over and passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Well, on the heels of that, he passed the Voters' Rights Act. All of that has been watered down with time. And the only way it can be watered down is that the powers that be make sure that it's watered down. Now, I know you say, okay, Jerry Steiner always coming in here with some beefs. I'm going to keep a beef because from the Declaration of Independence to the Plessy versus Ferguson and all those amendments that were supposed to aid poor people, people of color, you dig, all those was watered down and passed to the wayside. I'm telling y'all, like I told you about the bus fiasco, like I told you about disenfranchising your citizens that you swore to protect and serve for 60 years and couldn't vote for a mayor, like I told you about the bus fiasco. I'm telling y'all, you making decisions that just affect you. You're not making decisions that affect your constituents. And I don't care if don't nobody come before you but me. Somebody gonna come in back of me and tell you that you're out of order. What can you tell me about the mayor being a ceremonial position, and I can call him at any time of the day and night, and he answers the phone? Can't call none of y'all. Ain't seen none of y'all on the bus. Ain't seen none of y'all knocking on doors. But you make decisions for everybody. I know you say, hey, don't pay no attention to Jerry Steiner. He's just one guy. I don't care if you don't care. I don't care if you don't like what I got to say. My people, my ancestors, put up with a whole lot of garbage so I could stand here today and do that. Look here, y'all. Stop paying everybody else and try to pay the people to help build this country. My ancestors. I'm talking about reparations. I know you don't like it. Hey, look here. Hold me in contempt. I know you don't give me but 3 minutes.
Jerry, you're done. Thank you.
I already know that. I already know that. Come on, baby, let's go.
Any other public comment at this time? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the rest of our meeting. And Is there any commission comment regarding meeting business?
I'd like to move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions by the commission? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't necessarily want to go in depth on this, but I just wanted to put it out there that I'm concerned about the, the ambulance report. This percentage of runs completed within guidelines, 82.7%. Some of these as low as 80% in life-threatening emergencies per ward. I'd just like to call attention to that and see if the city manager could shake the trees a little bit on this and figure out what's going on.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, did you say the ambulance report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That is an ongoing issue that we have been discussing with Life Care. The fire chief and I certainly have regular discussions about the ambulance reports. You know, they're experiencing similar things as other ambulance services, is staffing issues. And we have been having these discussions actually under the umbrella of the CPSM study, and what are we looking at from a sustainable long-term vision for EMS services and how that may or may not relate to the department or the fire department service. But we certainly have contact. Previously, the commission did grant a cap of the penalties for late fees in recognition that Life Care is struggling from a staffing perspective, and that's still in place right now. They would like to see, Life Care would like to see the city amend the contract. We're not quite there yet. We have some other things that we want for them to consider, as well as the fire department to consider, and so those are ongoing discussions, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. And I just want yourself and my colleagues, the community, know that this is something that we're aware of, and
Yes,
things are happening.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Seeing none, please vote on the consent agenda. The consent agenda has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 188. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Having an investment policy statement is a requirement of MCL 129.95 per statute. The investment policy statement should include the following: a statement of the purpose, scope, and objectives of the policy, including safety, diversification, liquidity, and return on investment; a delegation of the authority to make investments; a list of authorized investments; a statement concerning safekeeping, custody, and prudence. The City Commission last adopted a revision to the investment policy statement in December of 2001. The draft policy has been modified to closely align with the best practice and sample investment policies provided by the Government Finance Officers Association and the Michigan Government Finance Officers Association. This resolution seeks approval to amend the city's investment policy statement.
I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 188.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 188. Are there any comments by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 188? Resolution 188 has been, Resolution 189. No, 188 has been approved. Sorry about that. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 189. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Johnny Jake Collier passed away at home on February 17, 2022. The family indicates Jake was a loving, kind man who was cherished by all who knew him. Jake Collier's daughter asked him how she could honor him, and he said, "Teach some kids how to fish." Jake was a lifelong fisherman. One of his wishes was to share his love of fishing with the youth of Battle Creek. Last year, the family of Jake Collier reached out to the city seeking permission to teach 50 kids how to fish at the city-owned site on Gogwak Lake. Last year's event was a huge success without any issues, and they served 63 kids. This resolution seeks authorization for the city manager to temporarily suspend a park rule prohibiting fishing to allow for the August 13, 2023 second annual Johnny Jake Collier Teach a Kid to Fish event to take place at the specified Gogwak Lake location.
I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 189.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 189. Are there any comments or questions by the commission? Commissioner Patrick O'Donnell?
I think this is a great idea for community outreach to teach our young people how to fish and enjoy a little bit of nature time out at the not hardly used Gogwak Lake. I've been out there recently for the Battle Creek post-band concert. What a beautiful area that is to showcase our city and allow people to go out and enjoy. And this is the morning. It runs from 9 o'clock in the morning till noon. So that's great that someone has the time to get 75 poles for our youngsters. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? See?
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Ballard.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify on what do they do as far as licensing or what? Is that regulated by the state or is it waived or how is that handled?
Kids under 16 don't need a license.
Under 16, you don't need a license. And so the people that are with them, training them, may or may not have a license? You don't know?
There's no kids under, my kids don't ever have licenses. So.
If they're not actually fishing, they will not need a license. So if they're just teaching kids and not fishing, they won't need a license.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make the public aware that they weren't needed if that were the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further questions? Seeing none, please vote on Resolution 189.
Thanks.
Mine decided not to come up now.
Did you try refreshing?
I did, yeah, refreshing it. It's still not up there. I'm sorry, worked on the last one. There it comes, it made it. There you go. It came up now. Just as you walked up here. It's like anything else that needs to be fixed.
Resolution 189 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 190.
The Battle Creek Fire Department has been awarded a Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG, for the purpose of providing emergency medical technician training to members of the department who are currently licensed at the medical first responder level. Both licensure levels are considered the basic life support level of service. The grant includes the cost of the training, salary, and backfill costs for training attendants and equipment necessary to provide the training, as well as continuing education training for all members of the department. Since 2001, AFG has helped firefighters or other first responders obtain critically needed equipment, protective gear, emergency vehicles, training, and other resources necessary for protecting the public and emergency personnel from fire and related hazards. The total grant award is $648,083.25, with the federal portion being $589,166.59 and $58,916.66 from local funding. This resolution seeks authorization for the city manager to accept FEMA grant EMW-FG-06413 fiscal year 22 assistance to firefighters grant in the amount of $589,166.59.
I'd like to move for the approval of Resolution 190.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 190. Are there any comments by the commission on this? Questions? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 190? Resolution 190 has been approved. Our final resolution tonight, Resolution 191. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Over the last several years, years, the city has considered a number of options to address the funding challenges at transit, including fare increases adopted in 2022, additional grant income to support capital purchases and operations, and reduction or elimination of services. The city is also considering how to address increasing demands for service, including demand beyond the system's traditional service boundaries. To secure long-term financial sustainability and to better meet the demand for service, the city has been working with stakeholders countywide to provide for a coordinated countywide transportation system supported by a dedicated source of funding. Currently, Calhoun County is the only jurisdiction in the region without a countywide system to meet consumer needs. In 2021, Battle Creek Transit launched the Calhoun County Coordinated Mobility Pilot, BC Go, which has proven to be successful in both rural and urban settings around the county. As of June 2023, BC Go has received more than 80,000 trip requests countywide in only 2 years of operation. The city recognizes that a countywide transportation authority can provide the framework for addressing the service demands and financial needs of a comprehensive transportation strategy. The creation of a transit authority will provide for more collaborative, coordinated, and comprehensive transportation to and from the city of Battle Creek and participating communities. As a result, the city's Public Transportation Committee is recommending that the City Commission and City Manager send a letter to the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners requesting that they establish a countywide transportation authority as allowed under the provisions of Act 196 of Public Acts of 1986. This resolution requests authorization for the mayor and city manager to send a letter to the Calhoun County Board of Commissioners asking them to establish a countywide transportation authority as allowed under the provisions of Act 196 of Public Acts 1986.
I would like to move the approval of Resolution 191.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 191. Are there any comments, questions, or clarifications needed by the Commission? Commissioner Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everybody here knows what my thoughts were about the initial intergovernmental agreement. I'd like to say that thanks to Rebecca, to everybody who's involved, I'm much more happy now. I feel like to begin with, a single seat on the Transportation Authority Board was not sufficient for the taxpayers who are going to be footing, over almost 40% of the bill. And under this new agreement with more representation and then the commitment that Battle Creek Transit, at least at this point, would be leading the operations of it. So we have not only, more local control, more local authority about our local routes where our funds are going. I'll say that I'm in a much happier place with it. I'll withhold judgment on any millage conversations, but right now I think this intergovernmental agreement is definitely adequate. So thank you.
Commissioner Simmons?
And I shared a lot of Commissioner Smith's concerns initially and, co-sponsored the resolution. I like this resolution better. It's more of a positive thing rather than opting out. But we were kind of at the time faced with the county had that on their agenda to form this authority. And I don't really know a whole heck of a lot about it. So let's step back. And so that's why at that time. And I think staff heard concerns, not just those of us who had sponsored opting out of that, but other commissioners who said, yeah, maybe we need to go back to the drawing board on the composition of this. And as Commissioner Smith mentioned, the bylaws have been changed and the city will have more representation. And besides the 2 seats that we're granted on there, potentially have members of the community who can put themselves forward to the county commission to be considered to be on that board. So I encourage all of you who stood up and spoke in favor of this, once this board is composed, to put yourself out there. And then, of course, we have to remember that we have some county commissioners that live in the city of Battle Creek. They will also, I would hope, have our citizens' best interest at heart. I spent so much time, Rebecca, thank you. I think I spent better part of our monthly meeting hours, talking about transportation. Mallory came in one of those meetings, and we talked for an hour, brought me along, understanding what's at stake here. This funding is not sustainable. Our general fund contributions currently has the potential to leverage, since we are expanding outside the city, we get state and federal money, has the potential to leverage more money from the federal and state government for these type of services for our citizens. And again, yeah, we'll have those discussions about millages and how this might be funded at a later time. I sat on the board that was comprised to put together the consolidated dispatch, and I think that was done very well. We consolidated City of Battle Creek and Marshall and Albion, all these dispatches that we used to run ourselves, into a consolidated dispatch for the county. Runs way more efficiently and saves the city a lot of money, and I think this has the potential to do that too. So I'll support this now and look forward to see what comes out, look forward to see what other municipalities opt in and opt out. That's going to be a huge part of this, so hopefully we can lead the way, and then something good will come out of this. So I'll support this today. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Commissioner Patrick O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, the main event of the evening here is transportation. And throughout our city, throughout our county, I do believe it's just so very important. Hear or talk to me sometime. I believe in autonomous automobiles and drones, because that's the technology we have now helps some of our people that can't get out in the community, and I hope that this grows in the future into that. But right now, we really do need that transportation, as Chuck was talking about earlier, to make sure people can get to their appointments. And so many, our healthcare system is getting smaller and smaller because of staffing shortages and other things. So that not just that, we need to make sure that the citizens are taken care of in their need. And I was reminded as I'm listening, yeah, I don't ride the bus now because my job's on the other end of the county, just outside the end of the county, so I can't take that. But if I could, I would. Same thing I thought about if I could bike here, but it's I couldn't go to work all sweaty and do my job, but that's my excuse for it. But I go back to when I was a child. My mother would give me 50 cents. It's 25 cents to leave the house to go on the bus to head downtown to the Y Center and go swimming and enjoy an afternoon in the summer. 25 cents to come back home, so at least I could come home and get a good meal and be in my house and be fed. But so we got to look at it at different perspectives. The younger people that don't have driver's license, they need the freedom too to move around and visit towns like Albion, where there's so much history in Albion. I don't want to go on about that, but I mean, you're missing out on so much in our historical area by not allowing to have this countywide transportation. And I just have to leave with one thing. We talked about how many people ride the bus. It's not really that everybody here rides the bus, but when it's needed, it's there. But I go to the starfish story where the young boy's on the beach throwing starfish into the water, and a man walks up to him and goes, "You can't save them all," and he grabs another one out of the sand and throws it into the ocean. I saved that one today. So we got to look at is make this program what it needs to be, service to our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Simmons for co-sponsoring this bill for the request from Commissioner Smith. And I also will be voting in favor of the proposal in 191.
Thank you very much. I believe we're ready to vote now. Please vote on Resolution 191. Resolution 191 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is general public comment. If you'd like to make general public comment regarding matters over which the City Commission has control, please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you, and then come forward to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address prior to beginning your comment. Yes, ma'am. We'll go to David next after that.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Catherine LaValle, 154 East Prudence Lane, Battle Creek, Michigan. I am an NPC 5 member, and I enjoy the NPC meetings, and I had the pleasure last evening of going to NPC number 2. And I was wanting to just speak tonight that I'm hoping that whatever project that has been started for surveillance cameras for Claude Evans Park, I hope that will come to fruition. It's something that I think would be a safety project and would benefit the wonderful people that put on outstanding sports programs for our kids. The community had a wonderful Juneteenth celebration just last month. That park is very welcoming, but we have to make sure that our citizens feel safe. And I just think that cameras do offer the technology to do what's fair, and it helps the city and the police and the fire to do their due diligence. One last thing, the transportation resolution tonight, I'm excited to see how that turns out. Working on former city committees like the Promise, and it was actually Project 2020, I'm dating myself a little bit, plus the BC Vision. Always we had data that we need transportation in Battle Creek. It's evident now that we need it county-wide, but it was just always barriers set in front of us as we worked on those committees. We really heard the community needing transportation out to their jobs in the fort, for instance, but also if there's medical needs now, I think that's important too. And I thank you for what you do for our city.
And we thank you for being the former president of the Battle Creek Public School Board. Thank you. David, and are there any other public comments? We'll go to Mary after David.
David Moore, and we've talked about many times on our necessities: fire and police, transportation, housing, and schooling. These things are important. A lot of people can't afford to pay taxes, but these are the necessities going to be the key of our city being going. If we don't have fire and police, we ain't going to have no insurance or safety in the streets, and people's got to have transportation. The system we got to have. Those necessities should be put over. I'm not against these recreational issues. I may give an opinion on it. Doesn't mean I'm against them, but I think that priorities are higher. Priorities should be more important than these recreational things. And I got on these proposals, there's two parts of it. The part's written out where people can read and see, and underlined where it's not anything written. That's a comment into there too. So I look at the underline of the thing and what's going on behind between the two lines. And that's more important in the issue we can see and we read, the underline of it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mary?
Mary Bourgeois, 231 Springview Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your support of the establishment of a County Transportation Authority. Secondly, I attended the NPC2 meeting last night. I too support cameras in Claude Evans Park. And also, while I'm on Claude Evans Park, I sincerely appreciate the support that the city is giving in maintenance of the Helen Montgomery Memorial. It's absolutely lovely because of the support the city's providing. And finally, I'm dressed like this because St. Thomas serves a community breakfast Monday through Friday from 8:30 till 10. And I just want to say kudos to the police again. I garden at St. Thomas, and on a regular basis, I see officers of the Battle Creek Police Department encouraging campers from the Tiger Building to move on. They are always, I mean always, competent, professional, and compassionate. So thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comments? John?
In regards to the cameras at Clyde Evans Park, Kathy, your times for streaking through the park are limited now.
All right, John,
Yeah.
address us, all right?
I'm going to be talking in regards to resolution, we'll begin with the uninsured debt liability. As I said, July 6th, it went to 192 trillion. And I was a little bit nervous about the national debt clock because I'd always say it was $250,000 that all the taxpayers, every taxpayer owed. And it was like $248,000 per taxpayer. Well, now it's burned right through that, so I can say with confidence you have to pay more than $250,000 per taxpayer. And what does this have to do with the city government? I'm going to go back to January 17th, 2023, City Commission meeting, Resolution 57. A resolution seeking authorization of publication of a notice of intent to issue water and wastewater system revenue bonds. And during this commission meeting in January, the bond issue, by the way, is $10 million. And if all paid out, will cost the taxpayers, not the taxpayers of the city of Battle Creek, not only the $10 million, but $5 million in interest on top of that. And something was interesting, that caught my interest at that meeting. One commissioner said, because the state government was forcing them at a time period to put this in place and there was no time, they would have to do it. There just wasn't time. We had no choice. That was the comment. We had no choice. Well, during this entire time, since the wells and the water treatment plants have been out there, have you ever put money aside that would solve this matter? Instead of taking out a loan, you'd have the money standing by? No. Also, on June 6th, you passed a millage rate for the Fire Police Pension Fund. And one of the comments, again, from one of the commissioners was, well, back in 1965 or so, the citizens of Battle Creek decided to pay for the retirement of police and fire pension. And we have no choice. They passed it in 1965. Well, I don't think they told everybody in 1965 that in the future held a arena that would cost the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars because it won't stand on its own 2 feet. You didn't tell anybody in 1965 that Full Blast hasn't made a profit and it's run itself in the ground and just spent $240-some-odd-thousand to resurface its pool. You didn't tell everybody in 1965 that there was no golf course, but it was going to come into existence, and you were going to pay $425,000 for brand spanking new gas-powered golf carts. So if you're going to solve a problem, you're not going to do it by putting us in debt, deeper in debt. Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, any commission comments? Roger, and then Commissioner Patrick O'Dowd.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to commend the police department. It's so much more visible to see your cars out patrolling during the pandemic and even earlier in the year. Sometimes I would be out for a couple hours in the city, I wouldn't see one car. Now I go out and I see at least 6, 7. So they also have a new program called COPS, which is being used in each of the NPCs. So we have a dedicated officer for our particular NPC 5, Officer Rose, and I just want to commend what a great job he is doing. So thank you.
Patrick?
Me and, Commissioner Simmons and myself attended a great event last Saturday, Canoe the Kazoo, and it was well attended. They said that there was close to 70 participants out there in kayaks and canoes helping clean up the watershed down there on the Battle Creek River, specifically on the Emmett Street Bridge to downtown Battle Creek. And I would just like to say thank you for the community putting that event on for showcasing some of our watershed down there. And it doesn't have to be canoes. I'm just going to tell citizens, get out and enjoy our summer. The weather's perfect, and that's all.
Thank you very much. Any other commission comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for attending. Our meeting is adjourned.